The thunder came first, then the screaming. Chantel Mark pressed her face against the rain-streaked window of her studio apartment, watching lightning split the Philadelphia sky in half. The entire block went dark for 3 seconds before the backup generators kicked in, bathing everything in that sickly yellow emergency light that made even familiar things look wrong. She turned back to her kitchen table. $19.47. She'd counted it 3 times, hoping the numbers would somehow change. They didn't. The eviction notice lay beside the coins, the words "Final Warning" printed in red letters that seemed to grow larger every time she looked at them. Chantel was 23 years old, 2 semesters away from her nursing degree, and approximately 72 hours away from being homeless. The knock on her door came at exactly 11:47 p.m. She froze. Nobody knocked at midnight in this building. Nobody knocked at all unless they were looking for trouble or running from it. The knock came again, softer this time, almost apologetic. Chantel grabbed the baseball bat she kept beside her door and checked the peephole. What she saw made her breath catch in her throat. A man stood in the hallway, completely drenched, water dripping from his dark hair and expensive-looking coat. He was tall, probably 6'2", with the kind of face that made you think of Roman statues and old paintings of emperors. But it wasn't him that made Chantel's hand move toward the doorknob. It was the little girl in his arms. She couldn't have been more than 5 years old, her small face pressed against the man's shoulder, her cheeks flushed with fever even through the distorted glass of the peephole. Chantel opened the door 6 inches, keeping the chain lock engaged. "Please," the man said, and his accent wrapped around that single word like velvet over steel, Italian and cultured and desperate. "My daughter, she is very sick. The storm, our car, it stopped working 2 blocks away. I need only somewhere warm until morning. I will pay." Chantel looked at the little girl again. Her lips were cracked, and even from here, Chantel could see the trembling that came with high fever. Every rational cell in her brain screamed at her to close the door, call 911, let someone else handle this. She was a broke college student, not a hospital. This man was a stranger. This could be a trick, a trap, 1,000 different kinds of danger. But the little girl whimpered, and Chantel's hands were already sliding the chain free before her brain caught up with her heart. "Come in," she said, stepping back. Quickly. The man carried his daughter inside with the careful precision of someone who'd learned to move through spaces without disturbing anything. He was bigger than he'd looked through the peephole, broad-shouldered under that wet coat, and he moved with a kind of controlled grace that Chantel associated with dancers or soldiers. "Thank you," he said quietly, his dark eyes scanning her tiny apartment with an intensity that made Chantel suddenly aware of the peeling wallpaper and the secondhand furniture and the smell of cheap ramen that probably clung to everything. "Thank you so much. I am Guido Nicholas. This is my daughter, Sofia." "Chantel Mark," she replied automatically, already moving toward them with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd spent 3 years in nursing school. "Put her on the couch. How long has she had the fever?" If you liked Chantel's kindness, hold and click that subscribe button. Drop a comment of your memorable kindness a person has shown you. Don't forget to hit the notification bell. Guido laid Sofia down with a gentleness that seemed impossible for a man his size. "Since this afternoon. It came very suddenly. We were going to the hospital, but the storm, the traffic, everything stopped." Chantel pressed the back of her hand against Sofia's forehead and barely suppressed a curse. The child was burning up, easily 103, maybe higher. She grabbed her thermometer from the bathroom, along with every towel she owned. "Strip off her wet clothes," Chantel ordered, her voice shifting into the calm, authoritative tone she used during her clinical rotations. "I need you to tell me everything. Any other symptoms? Vomiting? Rash? Trouble breathing?" Guido obeyed immediately, peeling off Sofia's soaked jacket and dress with shaking hands. Chantel noticed they were shaking. This terrifying, imposing man was shaking. "No vomiting," he said. She said her throat hurt this morning. She did not want breakfast. "I thought perhaps she was being difficult. She does this sometimes, she—" His voice cracked. "I should have known. I should have taken her to the doctor immediately." "Hey, Chantel said firmly, meeting his eyes. You're here now. That's what matters. Thermometer, Sofia, sweetheart, open up for me. The little girl's eyes fluttered open. They were the same dark brown as her father's, but glassy with fever. She opened her mouth obediently, and Chantel slipped the thermometer under her tongue. While they waited, Chantel ran to her kitchen and grabbed a bowl, filling it with lukewarm water. Not cold, never cold. That was a mistake people always made. Lukewarm water to bring the fever down gradually. 104.3, she read, and saw Guido go pale. Okay, not ideal, but we can work with this. I need you to stay calm, Mr. Nicholas. Children spike high fevers. It's scary, but if we act fast, we can bring it down. Tell me what to do, Guido said, and there was something in his voice that made Chantel look at him more carefully. This wasn't a request. It was the voice of someone used to giving orders, now forcing himself to take them. Help me get these wet clothes off her completely. Then we're going to sponge her down with this water. Do you have any children's fever reducer? Tylenol? Ibuprofen? Guido shook his head, looking devastated. In the car. Everything is in the car. It's okay. I have some. Chantel rifled through her bathroom cabinet, thanking God she'd grabbed the generic brand last month when it was on sale. She measured out the correct dose while Guido finished undressing Sofia down to her underwear. For the next hour, they worked in tandem. Chantel showed Guido how to sponge his daughter's arms and legs, how to check her temperature every 15 minutes, how to watch for signs of seizure. She made him repeat back the symptoms of febrile seizures until she was sure he'd remember. Guido followed every instruction with absolute precision. He never questioned her, never second-guessed her, just did exactly what she said with the focus of someone performing surgery. His hands, which had been shaking when he first arrived, steadied as he worked. You are very good at this, he said quietly, wiping Sofia's forehead with a damp cloth. You are a nurse? Nursing student, Chantel corrected, checking Sofia's temperature again. 102.8. Better. 2 more semesters. You will be excellent, Guido said with absolute certainty. Sofia is already breathing easier. You knew exactly what to do. Chantel felt her cheeks warm. Anyone with basic medical training would do the same. No, Guido said, and his eyes met hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. Not anyone. You opened your door at midnight to strangers. You used your medicine, your time, your knowledge. You asked for nothing. This is not common. Before Chantel could respond, Sofia stirred, her eyes opening more clearly than before. Papa, she whispered. Guido's entire face transformed. Chantel watched this stern, controlled man melt into something soft and vulnerable as he bent over his daughter. I am here, Mia Stella. I am right here. I don't feel good, Sofia whimpered. I know, my star. But the kind lady is helping you feel better. Can you say thank you to Miss Chantel? Sofia turned her fever-bright eyes to Chantel and managed a tiny smile. Thank you. Something in Chantel's chest cracked open. You're very welcome, sweetheart. You're being so brave. By 2 a.m., Sofia's fever had dropped to 101.2, and she'd fallen into a more natural sleep. Guido sat beside the couch, his hand resting on his daughter's small ankle, as if afraid she'd disappear if he stopped touching her. Chantel made coffee, because it was all she had to offer, and she needed something to do with her hands. The adrenaline was wearing off, and she was starting to realize she'd just let a complete stranger into her apartment. A very large, very intense stranger who moved like violence was always an option, even when he was being gentle. Here, she said, handing him a chipped mug. It's not great, but it's hot. Guido accepted it with both hands, and Chantel noticed his knuckles were scarred. Thank you. For everything. I do not know how to repay this kindness. You don't need to repay anything, Chantel said automatically. I'm just glad Sofia's okay. Nevertheless. Guido pulled out his wallet, and Chantel saw more cash than she'd held in her entire life. He pulled out several bills without counting them. Please. For the medicine, the inconvenience, your time. No, Chantel said firmly, stepping back. Absolutely not. I didn't help your daughter for money. Guido's expression shifted, something like surprise crossing his face. I did not mean to offend. I only wish to show my gratitude. Then just say thank you, Chantel replied. That's enough. They stared at each other for a long moment. Guido looked like he wanted to argue, but something in Chantel's expression must have stopped him. Thank you, he said quietly. Truly, the storm raged outside. Inside Chantel's tiny apartment, an exhausted nursing student and a mysterious man sat in silence, watching over a sleeping child, while the space between them filled with questions neither of them knew how to ask. Chantel woke to sunlight streaming through her window and the smell of something burning. She bolted upright from the chair where she'd apparently fallen asleep, her neck screaming in protest. Guido stood in her kitchen, staring at her kettle like it had personally offended him. Smoke rose from the stove. What are you doing? Chantel yelped, rushing over to turn off the burner. The kettle was bone dry, the bottom starting to char. I was attempting to make coffee, Guido said stiffly. To repay your hospitality. I appear to have failed. Chantel looked at this man, this clearly wealthy, clearly powerful man, standing in her kitchen with the most awkward expression of shame she'd ever seen on a human face, and started laughing. She couldn't help it. The absurdity of the last 12 hours hit her all at once. You almost burned down my apartment trying to make coffee, she gasped between laughs. How is that even possible? I do not typically make my own coffee, Guido admitted, and his ears were actually turning red. I apologize. I will replace your kettle and your stove and anything else I have damaged. It's fine, Chantel said, still grinning. It's just a kettle. But maybe step away from the kitchen before you hurt yourself. Guido moved back with exaggerated care, like the kitchen might explode if he breathed wrong. The whole thing was so ridiculous that Chantel felt the last of her fear of him evaporate. On the couch, Sofia stirred and sat up, rubbing her eyes. Her fever was completely gone, her cheeks their normal color. Papa, she said, where are we? We are at Miss Chantel's home, Mia Stella. Do you remember last night? Sofia looked around with wide eyes, then focused on Chantel. You made me feel better. I'm glad you're feeling better, Sofia, Chantel said warmly. Are you hungry? I can make you some toast. Sofia nodded eagerly, and Guido watched this exchange with an expression Chantel couldn't quite read. Gratitude, yes, but something else too. Something almost like wonder. While Chantel made breakfast, her phone buzzed. 3 missed calls from the landlord. 2 texts from her best friend Nina, asking where she was. And a reminder that her rent was due in 48 hours. Reality crashed back in. She had less than $20 to her name. No job prospects until she graduated, and a little girl eating toast on her couch while her father watched like he was memorizing every detail of Chantel's falling apart life. I should call my driver, Guido said, pulling out his phone. We have imposed on you long enough. It's not an imposition, Chantel said automatically, then paused. You have a driver? Yes. His name is Tito. He will have been very worried. Guido stepped into the hallway to make the call, leaving Chantel alone with Sofia. The little girl finished her toast and looked up at Chantel with those serious dark eyes. You're very pretty, she announced. Chantel blinked. Thank you, sweetheart. So are you. Papa thinks so too, Sofia continued matter-of-factly. He told Tito you were the most beautiful woman he'd ever seen. Heat flooded Chantel's face. I'm sure that's not what he said. He did, Sofia insisted. He said it in Italian, but I know all the Italian words. He said you were bella come un angelo. That means beautiful like an angel. Before Chantel could process this, Guido returned, and from the expression on his face, he'd heard at least part of that conversation. His ears were red again. Tito will be here in 10 minutes, he said, not quite meeting Chantel's eyes. Sofia, Mia Stella, we should prepare to leave. 20 minutes later, a black luxury car pulled up in front of Chantel's building. The kind of car that didn't belong in this neighborhood, with tinted windows and chrome that probably cost more than Chantel's entire education. A man got out. He was shorter than Guido, stockier, with a face that looked like it had been in a few fights, and won most of them. He wore a suit that fit too well to be off the rack, and when he saw Guido and Sofia, his entire expression crumpled with relief. "Boss," he said, then caught himself.
"Guido."
"Thank God. I've been losing my mind." Guido clasped the man's shoulder. "I am sorry, Tito. The phone died, the car failed, everything went wrong at once. But this young woman, she saved Sofia's life." Tito turned to Chantel, and she saw him assess her in about 3 seconds flat. Her cheap clothes, her rundown building, her complete lack of threat. His expression softened.
"Thank you, miss.
"Truly. If there's anything we can do for you, anything at all, you just name it." "I'm just glad Sofia's okay," Chantel said, feeling overwhelmed by the intensity of his gratitude. Guido moved to the car, then stopped. He turned back to Chantel with that same strange expression from earlier. "Miss Mark," he said formally, "may I have your phone number?" Chantel's heart did something complicated in her chest.
"Why?"
"Because my daughter requires care," Guido said carefully. "Medical care, supervision, someone who knows what they are doing. Her previous nanny was." He paused, choosing his words with visible effort. "Inadequate. You, however, are exceptional. I would like to offer you a position. Temporary, if you prefer. No pressure. Just help with Sofia until I can find someone permanent." Chantel opened her mouth to refuse. This was insane.
She didn't know these people.
She had school. She had student loans. She had a life that was already complicated enough without adding mysterious, wealthy men and their daughters. But then she thought about her eviction notice, about the $19 on her kitchen table, about how many shifts she'd have to pick up at the diner to even make half of next month's rent, let alone catch up on what she owed. "How much?" she heard herself ask. Guido named a figure that made Chantel's knees actually wobble. That was more than she made in 3 months at the diner. For 1 week of work. "That's too much," she said automatically. "That is what the position pays," Guido replied, and there was no room for argument in his tone. "If you're interested, I can have someone collect you tomorrow. You would stay at my home, help with Sofia's care and education. All expenses paid, of course." "I have classes," Chantel said weakly. "I will work around your schedule." "I don't know anything about you." Guido smiled, and it transformed his entire face. "Then you will learn. Please, Miss Mark, say yes. For Sofia's sake, if not mine." In the car, Sofia pressed her face against the window and waved at Chantel with both hands. Chantel thought about her eviction notice, about her empty bank account, about the gentle way Guido had held his daughter and the trust Sofia had placed in a complete stranger. She thought about the way Guido had looked at her when he said, "beautiful like an angel" in Italian, thinking she couldn't understand. "Okay," she said. 1 week. Trial basis. If either of us isn't happy, I walk away, no hard feelings." "Agreed," Guido said immediately, and his smile grew wider. "Thank you, Miss Mark. You will not regret this." As Chantel watched the luxury car pull away, Nina's words from last semester echoed in her head. "Girl, if something seems too good to be true, it probably is." Chantel looked at the business card Guido had pressed into her hand before leaving. Heavy cardstock, embossed lettering, just a name and a phone number. No company. No title. Nothing to explain who Guido Nicholas actually was or why he could afford to pay a nursing student a fortune to watch his daughter. She should Google him. She should do a background check. She should be sensible and careful and smart. But sensible and careful and smart hadn't kept a roof over her head or food in her fridge. Maybe it was time to take a risk. Chantel called the number on the card. A woman answered on the first ring, professional and crisp. "Mr. Nicholas's office. How may I help you?" "This is Chantel Mark. Mr. Nicholas said I should call about the position." "Yes, Miss Mark. We've been expecting your call. A car will collect you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Please pack for a week-long stay. If you have any dietary restrictions or medical needs, please inform me now." Just like that. No interview, no references, no background check. Like Guido's word was all the credentials she needed. Chantel hung up feeling like she'd just jumped off a cliff and was still waiting to see if she'd sprout wings or hit the ground. The next morning, Chantel stood outside her building with a duffel bag containing everything she owned that was worth taking. Which wasn't much. The black car that pulled up was the same one from yesterday, and Tito got out to open the door for her. "Good morning, Miss Mark," he said, his gruff voice surprisingly gentle. "Ready to go?" "I think so," Chantel said, climbing into the back seat. The interior smelled like leather and money. They drove for 40 minutes, leaving the city and heading into the suburbs, then passed even those into an area where the houses sat on acres of land and had gates instead of front doors. When Tito finally pulled through a set of wrought iron gates, Chantel's mouth fell open. The estate was enormous. Not mansion enormous, but sprawling and elegant. All stone and glass and perfectly manicured grounds. There were actual security guards at the gate and cameras everywhere she looked. "What does Mr. Nicholas do?" Chantel asked faintly. Tito's expression went carefully neutral. "Import and export. Family business. Been doing it for generations." That told Chantel absolutely nothing, and from Tito's tone, he knew it. The car stopped in front of the main house, and Guido was already waiting on the steps. He'd changed into casual clothes, dark jeans, and a white shirt, but he still moved with that same controlled precision. "Miss Mark," he said, opening her door himself before Tito could. "Welcome. Please come inside. Sofia has been asking for you every 10 minutes since dawn." The interior of the house was somehow both intimidating and warm. Expensive furniture, original artwork, marble floors, but also scattered toys, colorful blankets, and photographs everywhere. Pictures of Sofia at every age, of an older couple who must be Guido's parents, of Guido himself looking years younger and somehow sadder. No pictures of a mother. Sofia came running down the stairs in a pink dress, her face lit up with joy. "Miss Chantel, you came. Papa said you might not come, but I knew you would." She crashed into Chantel's legs hard enough to make her stagger. Chantel caught her automatically, surprised by how fiercely the little girl hugged her. "Of course I came," Chantel said, smiling. "I promised, didn't I? Can we play tea party? And can you read me the story about the princess? And can we make cookies? Papa never makes cookies with me. He says the kitchen is dangerous." "The kitchen is dangerous," Guido said dryly, as evidenced by yesterday's kettle incident. Chantel bit back a laugh. "We can do all of those things, Sofia. But first, your papa needs to show me around so I know where everything is." The tour took an hour. The house had 12 bedrooms, 8 bathrooms, a library, a gym, a pool, and what Guido called the security wing, which he didn't elaborate on, and Chantel decided not to ask about. Sofia's room was on the second floor, painted a cheerful yellow with more toys than any one child could ever need. Chantel's room was right next door, connected by a bathroom they'd share. "If Sofia needs anything in the night, you'll hear her," Guido explained. "My room is down the hall. I am a light sleeper. If there is any problem, any concern at all, you come to me immediately." "Understood." "Understood," Chantel said, trying not to think about what Guido's bedroom might look like. "Now," Guido continued, his tone shifting to something more businesslike. "Rules. I have very few, but they are absolute. First, Sofia's safety is paramount. She does not leave this property without my permission. Second, there are parts of this house that are off limits. The west wing, the basement level, my office when the door is closed. Third, if anyone you do not recognize attempts to enter this property or contact you, you tell me immediately." "Okay," Chantel said slowly. "Can I ask why?" "Security concerns," Guido said vaguely. "I have business rivals. Some of them are not above using my family to hurt me. It is unlikely anything will happen, but I do not take chances with Sofia's safety." That should have been a red flag the size of Texas. Chantel knew that. But the way Guido said it, so matter-of-fact, like having business rivals who might kidnap your daughter was just a normal part of life, made her more curious than afraid. "What kind of business are you in exactly?" she asked. Guido's expression went carefully blank. "Import and export. As Tito said, Now, let me show you the kitchen, and I will explain Sofia's dietary requirements and schedule. He was dodging the question. Chantel knew he was dodging the question. But she let him, because Sofia was tugging on her hand and asking if they could please make cookies now, and the little girl's excitement was impossible to resist. The first 3 days passed in a blur. Chantel fell into a routine with surprising ease. Wake up at 7, help Sofia get ready for the day, breakfast together while Guido read the newspaper and occasionally glanced up to watch them with that same unreadable expression. Then lessons. Sofia was technically homeschooled, so Chantel helped with reading and basic math. Lunch.
Playtime.
Afternoon quiet time while Sofia napped and Chantel studied for her own classes online. Dinner with Guido, who always came home by 6 no matter what. Bedtime routine, stories, songs, tucking Sofia in. It was domestic and strange and nothing like Chantel's normal life, but it didn't feel wrong. Guido was unfailingly polite, almost formal, but Chantel caught him watching her sometimes. Not in a creepy way, just observing, like he was trying to figure her out. On the 4th morning, Chantel came downstairs to find Guido in the kitchen, staring at the coffee maker with the same expression of bewildered frustration he'd worn in her apartment. "Do you need help?" she asked, trying not to smile. "I am attempting to learn," Guido said stiffly. "So, I do not have to wake the staff every time I want coffee." "You have staff to make you coffee?" "I have staff for everything," which, I am realizing, may have made me somewhat incompetent in domestic matters. Chantel walked over and showed him how to measure the grounds, add the water, press the buttons. It was such a simple thing, but Guido watched her hands like she was performing surgery. "Thank you," he said quietly. "You are very patient. You're very determined," Chantel replied. "That's worth something." Their fingers brushed as she handed him the coffee scoop, and they both froze. The touch lasted maybe 2 seconds, but Chantel felt it all the way to her toes. Guido pulled back first, clearing his throat. There's work, I have calls." He fled. Actually fled. This man who moved like a predator and commanded rooms with his presence practically ran out of his own kitchen. Chantel stared at the coffee maker and tried to remember how to breathe. That evening, after Sofia was asleep, Chantel found Guido in the library. He sat in a leather chair, reading, and he looked so different from the intimidating man who'd knocked on her door a week ago. Relaxed. Almost vulnerable. "Can I ask you something?" Chantel said from the doorway. Guido looked up and immediately closed his book, giving her his full attention. "Of course." "Where's Sofia's mother?" The question hung in the air between them. Guido's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes went distant. "She died," he said simply. 3 years ago.
Car accident.
It was very sudden. "I'm sorry," Chantel said and meant it. "Sofia does not remember her very well," Guido continued, his voice careful. "She was only 2. Sometimes I do not know if that is a blessing or a tragedy." Chantel sat down in the chair across from him. "Both, probably." Guido smiled, a real smile that transformed his whole face.
"Yes, both."
"You are very wise for someone so young." "I'm 23, not 12, Chantel said, rolling her eyes. "How old are you?" 34. "Ancient, I know." "Practically decrepit," Chantel agreed, and they both laughed. The conversation flowed after that. Guido asked about her nursing program, her family, her dreams. Chantel found herself telling him things she rarely shared with anyone. About growing up in foster care, about fighting for every scholarship and grant and opportunity, about how terrified she was that she'd fail right before the finish line. "You will not fail," Guido said with absolute certainty. "You are too strong, too determined. I see it in everything you do." "You don't know me that well," Chantel protested. "I know enough," Guido replied. "I see how you are with Sofia. Patient, kind, but also firm when she needs boundaries. I see how you study, even when you are exhausted. I see how you look at problems, breaking them down, finding solutions. You are remarkable, Chantel Mark." The way he said her name, with that slight Italian accent softening the syllables, made her heart race. Thank you, she whispered. They sat in comfortable silence after that, and Chantel realized she didn't want to leave when her week was up. This strange, intense man and his sweet daughter had somehow become important to her, which was dangerous because she still didn't really know what Guido did or why his house needed this much security or why Tito and the other guards all moved like soldiers. She should ask. She should demand answers. But she didn't want to break this moment, this fragile thing growing between them. The next morning, everything changed. Chantel woke to shouting. Actual shouting, which violated Guido's ironclad rule about noise around Sofia. She bolted out of bed and ran into the hallway to find Guido standing outside his office, facing down 3 men in expensive suits. I said no, Guido said, his voice cold and flat in a way Chantel had never heard before. The answer is no. It will remain no. Leave my house. You're making a mistake, one of the men said. The Corelli family doesn't forget slights like this. Chantel's blood went cold. The Corelli family. She'd grown up in Philadelphia. Everyone in Philadelphia knew that name, even if they pretended not to. The Mafia. Guido was Mafia. The men left, and Guido turned to find Chantel standing frozen in the hallway. Their eyes met, and she saw him see the exact moment she put it together. Chantel, he said carefully. Let me explain. You're a criminal, Chantel breathed. It is more complicated than that. Is it? Because it seems pretty simple. The security, the guards, the business rivals who might kidnap Sofia, this is all because you're in the mob. Guido flinched like she'd slapped him. I inherited my father's business. I did not choose this life. But yes, technically, legally, I am part of organized crime. I have worked for years to make our operations more legitimate, to transition away from the violence and corruption, but it is slow. These things do not change overnight. Chantel wanted to scream. She wanted to run. She'd opened her door to a mafia boss. She'd let his daughter into her heart. She'd started developing feelings for a man who probably had people killed for a living. I need to think, she said. Of course. Take all the time you need. Chantel went back to her room and called Nina. You need to leave, Nina said immediately.
Right now.
Pack your stuff and call an Uber and get out of there. But Sofia, Chantel protested weakly. Sofia is not your problem. Sofia has a father and a whole estate full of people to take care of her. You are a nursing student from North Philly who got in over her head. There is no shame in walking away. Nina was right. Chantel knew she was right. But when Sofia knocked on her door an hour later, asking if Chantel was mad at her because Papa said Chantel needed space, Chantel couldn't do it. I'm not mad at you, sweetheart, Chantel said, pulling Sofia into a hug. I'm just trying to figure some things out. Are you leaving? Sofia asked, and her voice was so small, so terrified. I don't know, Chantel admitted. Maybe. Everyone leaves, Sofia whispered. Mama left. The other nannies all left. Everyone always leaves. Chantel's heart shattered. She held this little girl who'd lost her mother and been abandoned by every caretaker she'd ever had, and she couldn't make herself be one more person who disappeared. I'm not leaving today, Chantel said firmly. Okay? Not today. We'll take it one day at a time. Sofia nodded against her shoulder, and Chantel met Guido's eyes over the little girl's head. He stood in the doorway, and the naked gratitude and pain on his face made Chantel's breath catch. She was in so much trouble. That night, after Sofia was asleep, Chantel found Guido on the terrace. He stood looking out at the grounds, his shoulders tight with tension. I need you to tell me the truth, Chantel said. All of it. What exactly do you do? Guido was quiet for a long moment. My family has controlled the shipping and distribution of certain goods in this region for 4 generations. Some of those goods are legal. Many are not. We also provide protection services, financial loans, and mediation for disputes that cannot be settled through legal channels. Drugs? Chantel asked bluntly. Not anymore. I shut down that operation when I took over. Gambling, yes. Loan sharking, protection rackets, legitimate business that we use to launder money. These are all still part of our portfolio. I am not a good man, Chantel. I have done things I am not proud of, but I am trying to be better. For Sofia's sake, I am trying to build something she can inherit without shame. Have you killed anyone? Guido's jaw tightened. Yes. The word hung between them, heavy and final. In self-defense, Guido added quietly, or defense of others. I have never harmed an innocent person. I have never hurt someone who did not pose an active threat. But yes, I have killed. And I carry the weight of those deaths every single day. Chantel should leave. She should pack her bags and call Nina and run as far from this man as possible. Instead, she asked, "Why are you telling me this? You could have lied. I'd have believed you. Because you deserve honesty," Guido said simply. "And because I cannot, I will not build anything with you on a foundation of lies." "Build something with me?" Chantel repeated, her heart hammering. Guido turned to face her fully. "I am attracted to you, Chantel Mark. Deeply, dangerously attracted to you. I think about you constantly. The way you laugh with Sofia. The way you challenged me in my own kitchen. The way you looked at me when you thought I could not see. But I will not pursue this if it frightens you. I will not use my position or my resources to pressure you. If you wish to leave, Tito will drive you home tonight, and I will pay you for the full month regardless." Chantel's mind spun. Every logical part of her brain screamed that this was insane. He was a mobster, a criminal, a man who'd just admitted to killing people. But he was also the man who'd shaken with fear over his daughter's fever, who couldn't make coffee without help, who read bedtime stories in 2 languages and practiced smiling in mirrors because he wanted Sofia to see him happy. "I don't know what to do," Chantel admitted. "Then stay," Guido said softly. "Not as Sofia's caretaker. Not as someone I employ. Stay as my guest. Take time to decide if you can accept who I am. No pressure.
No expectations.
Just time." "That's not fair to Sofia," Chantel protested. "If I stay and then leave, it'll hurt her worse. Sofia is stronger than you think, and she deserves to have someone care about her enough to try." Chantel looked at this complicated, dangerous, gentle man and made a choice that probably made her as crazy as him. "Okay," she said. "I'll stay. But I need complete honesty from now on. No more secrets. No more half-truths. If I ask you something, you tell me the truth." "Agreed," Guido said immediately. "And I keep my own room. And my own life. I don't work for you anymore. We're just seeing where this goes." "Understood. And if Sofia gets hurt because of this, because of us, I will never forgive you." "If Sofia gets hurt because of me," Guido said seriously, "I will never forgive myself. She is my entire world, Chantel. I would die before I let harm come to her." They stood there on the terrace as the sun set, and Chantel felt like she was standing on the edge of something vast and terrifying and impossible to turn away from. The next 2 weeks were strange. Chantel still helped with Sofia, but now it was because she wanted to, not because she was paid to. Guido gave her space, never pushing, never pressuring, but she caught him watching her with an intensity that made her skin feel too tight. They had dinner together every night, the 3 of them, and it felt dangerously like being a family. Guido started teaching her Italian. Small phrases at first, then whole conversations. He'd say something in rapid Italian, and Chantel would struggle to translate, and Sofia would giggle at both of them. "You are getting better," Guido said one evening after Sofia had gone to bed. "Your accent is improving." "I have a good teacher," Chantel replied, and watched his eyes darken. "Chantel," he said carefully, "may I ask you something?" "Of course." "Why did you stay?" "The truth. Not because of Sofia, though I know you care for her. But why did you not run when you learned what I am?" Chantel considered the question carefully. "Because you told me the truth when you didn't have to. Because I've watched you with Sofia, and I've seen who you are when you think no one's paying attention. You're trying to be better. That matters to me." "I do not deserve you," Guido said quietly. "Probably not," Chantel agreed, smiling. "But maybe I don't deserve you either. Maybe we're both just people trying to be better than we were yesterday." Guido reached across the table and took her hand. His palm was warm, callous, steady. "I want to kiss you," he said. "I have wanted to kiss you since the moment you opened your door to a stranger in a storm. But I need you to want it too." Chantel's heart raced. This was it. The moment where she either walked away from this insanity or dove in headfirst. She stood up and walked around the table. Guido watched her approach with barely contained hope in his eyes. "Yes," she whispered. "Kiss me." Guido stood slowly, giving her every chance to change her mind. Then he cupped her face in both hands, gentle despite his strength, and kissed her like she was something precious. The kiss was soft at first, questioning, but when Chantel pressed closer, Guido made a sound low in his throat and deepened it. His hands slid into her hair, and Chantel gripped his shoulders, and for a moment, nothing existed except this. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Guido rested his forehead against hers. "I am in so much trouble," he whispered. "Me too," Chantel agreed. They dated, if you could call it that. Guido took her to dinner at restaurants where the staff knew him by name and seated them in private corners. He brought her flowers, books, a new laptop when he noticed hers was dying. He asked about her classes, her dreams, her opinions on everything from politics to poetry. He never tried to change her, never suggested she dress differently or act differently or be anything other than exactly who she was. And Chantel fell. She fell hard and fast and completely, despite every warning sign, despite Nina's increasingly frantic texts, despite the fact that she was dating a literal crime boss. But it wasn't all romance and roses. Reality intruded in sharp, uncomfortable ways. Like the night Chantel came downstairs for water and found Guido on the phone, speaking rapid Italian in a voice that sent chills down her spine. Cold. Authoritative. Threatening. He saw her and immediately switched to English. "I will call you back." He hung up and gave her a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Could not sleep." "Who was that?" Chantel asked. "Business," Guido said vaguely. "What kind of business requires threatening someone at midnight?" Guido's smile faded. "The kind I am trying to move away from. A supplier attempting to renegotiate our terms in bad faith. Nothing you need to worry about." "Don't do that," Chantel said sharply. "Don't treat me like I'm fragile. I stayed knowing what you are. Don't lie to me now by pretending you're something else." Guido studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "You are right. I apologize. The supplier attempted to sell us inferior product at premium prices. When I refused, he implied there would be consequences. I was explaining that consequences run both directions." "Explaining how?" "By reminding him that my family has resources he does not, and that attempting to cheat us would be significantly more expensive than conducting honest business." "Did you threaten to hurt him?" "I implied that his business interests might suffer, which is true. I have contacts who could make things very difficult for him. But no, I did not threaten violence. I told you, Chantel. I am trying to do this differently." Chantel wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe him. "Okay," she said finally. "Thank you for being honest." Guido crossed to her and pulled her into his arms. "I know this is difficult. I know what I am asking you to accept. But I swear to you, I am working every day to build something better. For Sofia. For you. For myself." Chantel buried her face in his chest and held on tight. 3 weeks into their relationship, Nina showed up at the estate unannounced. Tito tried to stop her at the gate, but Nina had her phone out recording and was threatening to call every news station in Philadelphia if they didn't let her see her best friend. Chantel met her in the driveway, equal parts mortified and relieved. "You look good," Nina said, hugging her tight. "Healthy. Not kidnapped." "That's a relief." "I'm fine, Nina. I promise." "You're dating a mob boss, Chantel. That is the opposite of fine." They walked the grounds while Chantel tried to explain. About Guido's honesty. About his efforts to legitimize the business. About how good he was with Sofia. About how he made her feel seen and valued and important. Nina listened to all of it, then sighed. "You love him." "I do," Chantel admitted, saying it out loud for the first time. "I really do." "Does he love you?" "I think so." He hasn't said it, but the way he looks at me, the way he is with me, I think he does. And what happens when the law catches up with him? What happens if he goes to prison? What happens if one of his rivals decides to hurt him by hurting you? These were all questions Chantel had asked herself in the dark hours of the night. She didn't have good answers. I don't know, she said honestly. But I know that walking away from him would hurt worse than any of those possibilities. Nina grabbed her hands. Then promise me something. Promise me you'll be careful. Promise me you won't lose yourself in this. And promise me that if he ever hurts you or makes you feel unsafe, you'll leave. I promise, Chantel said. That night at dinner, Sofia announced that she'd made a picture for Chantel at school. It was a crayon drawing of 3 stick figures, one tall, one medium, one small, all holding hands under a rainbow. That's you and Papa and me, Sofia explained. We're a family. Chantel's throat tightened. She looked at Guido and saw her own emotion reflected in his eyes. It's beautiful, Sofia, Chantel managed. Can I keep it? Of course. I made it for you. After Sofia went to bed, Guido found Chantel on the terrace, staring at the drawing. She loves you, he said quietly. I love her too, Chantel replied. So much it scares me. And what about me? Guido asked, and there was vulnerability in his voice that she'd never heard before. How do you feel about me, Chantel Mark? Chantel turned to face him. This man who'd knocked on her door in a storm. This dangerous, gentle, complicated man who was trying so hard to be better. I love you, she said simply. I love you in a way that probably makes me crazy, but I can't help it. I love you, Guido Nicholas. Guido's expression crumpled. He pulled her into his arms and held her like she might disappear. I love you, he whispered against her hair. I have loved you since you opened your door to strangers. Since you saved my daughter with nothing but kindness and competence. Since you stayed even when you learned the truth. I love you, and I do not deserve you, but I will spend every day trying to be worthy of you. They stood there under the stars, holding each other, and Chantel felt something settle in her chest. This was right. Against all logic, against all reason, this was right. But happiness in Guido's world was always temporary. 2 days later, the Corelli family made their move. Chantel was walking Sofia home from the park on the estate grounds when a black van pulled up. The back doors opened, and 3 men got out. Chantel knew instantly what was happening. She grabbed Sofia and ran, screaming for the guards, her heart hammering in her chest. Gunshots rang out, not aimed at them, but at the security guards rushing to intercept. Chantel heard Tito yelling, heard more shots, heard the screech of tires. She made it to the house and slammed the door behind her, engaging every lock, her hands shaking so badly she could barely work the bolts. Sofia was crying, terrified. Chantel picked her up and ran for the safe room Guido had shown her on the tour, the one she'd hoped she'd never need to use. They made it inside and sealed the door just as she heard footsteps in the house. The safe room was small, reinforced, with a phone that connected directly to Guido's cell. Chantel grabbed it with trembling hands. Guido answered on the first ring. Chantel. Someone tried to take Sofia, Chantel gasped. We're in the safe room. There are men in the house. Stay there. Guido's voice was cold, deadly. Do not open that door for anyone except me or Tito. I am coming. The line went dead. Chantel held Sofia close, whispering that everything would be okay, that Papa was coming, that they were safe. She didn't know if any of that was true, but she said it anyway because Sofia needed to hear it. 20 minutes later, she heard Guido's voice outside the door, saying the code word they'd established. Only then did Chantel open it. Guido swept Sofia into his arms, checking her over frantically, his hands shaking. Then he pulled Chantel against him with his free arm, holding both of them like he'd never let go. Are you hurt? Either of you? Did they touch you? We're okay, Chantel said. The guards, Tito, are they? Everyone is alive. 2 guards injured, but they will recover. The attackers fled when they realized they would not succeed. Guido's voice was steady, but Chantel could feel him trembling. She realized he was absolutely terrified, barely holding it together for Sofia's sake. That night, after Sofia finally fell asleep in Chantel's bed because she refused to let either of them out of her sight, Guido sat on the floor beside them, his head in his hands. "This is my fault," he whispered. "I brought you into this. I put you both in danger." Chantel carefully extracted herself from Sofia's grip and knelt beside him.
Hey.
"Look at me." Guido raised his head, and his eyes were red. "This is not your fault," Chantel said firmly. "The men who did this, they're at fault. But you kept us safe. Your security, your precautions, they worked. We're okay." "You could have died," Guido said raggedly. "Sofia could have been taken. Because of me. Because I was arrogant enough to think I could have this, have you, without consequences." "Stop," Chantel said, cupping his face. "Stop punishing yourself. Yes, this is dangerous. Yes, I'm terrified. But I'm not leaving. Do you hear me? I'm not leaving you." "You should," Guido said. "You should run far away from me." "Too bad. I love you, remember? And I'm not going anywhere." Guido pulled her into his lap and held her like she was the only thing keeping him anchored to the earth. The next morning, Guido made a decision. He called a meeting with the Corelli family, demanded it, actually, with enough implied threats that they couldn't refuse. Chantel wanted to go with him, but Guido absolutely forbade it. "This is my world," he said firmly. "My responsibility. You stay here with Sofia, where you're safe. Please, Chantel. I cannot focus if I am worried about you." So Chantel stayed, pacing the library while Tito kept watch and Sofia colored pictures, blissfully unaware of the stakes. Guido returned 3 hours later, looking exhausted but satisfied. "It is over," he said. "The Corellis will not trouble us again." "What did you do?" Chantel asked. "I made them an offer. A significant percentage of our shipping operations in exchange for peace. And I made it clear that any further attacks on my family would result in total war. They are greedy, not stupid. They took the deal." "You gave up part of your business?" "I gave up the part one was trying to eliminate anyway," Guido said. "The less legitimate operations. They can have them and the headaches that come with them. I keep what matters, clean business that Sofia can inherit without shame." Chantel threw her arms around him. "You did it. You actually did it. For you," Guido said simply. "For Sofia. For the future I want us to have." That night, after Sofia was asleep in her own bed again, Chantel and Guido sat in his room, just talking. "What do you want?" Guido asked. "From life. From us. From everything." Chantel thought about it carefully. "I want to finish nursing school. I want to help people. I want to be with you and Sofia. I want to build something real and good. I want to wake up every morning without wondering if today's the day everything falls apart." "I want those things too," Guido said. "And I think, finally, I can give them to you. The business is transitioning. I have good people handling the legitimate operations. I can step back, be the silent partner, focus on my family." "Your family?" Chantel repeated, her heart racing. Guido took her hand. "If you will have us. Sofia already considers you her mother in everything but name. And I want to marry you, Chantel Mark. I want to wake up beside you every morning. I want to build a life with you. I want to be worthy of the faith you have placed in me." Chantel's eyes filled with tears. "Are you asking me?" "Not yet," Guido said, smiling. "When I ask, it will be perfect. This is just me telling you my intentions. So you can think about it. So you can be sure." "I'm already sure," Chantel whispered. "Then we will take our time anyway," Guido replied. "Because you deserve to be courted properly. You deserve romance and certainty and a future you choose consciously." He was right, and Chantel loved him for it. The next 6 months were the happiest of Chantel's life. She finished her last semester of nursing school with straight A's. Guido came to her graduation, and Sofia made a sign that said, "We love you, Miss Chantel," with glitter and hearts. Chantel passed her nursing boards on the first try and got a job at a children's hospital. She moved into the estate officially, Not as an employee or a guest, but as family. Guido restructured his business operations completely. He sold off the remaining illegal enterprises to other families, keeping only the legitimate shipping and real estate companies. It cost him power and influence, but he didn't seem to care. "I have everything I need," he told Chantel one evening, watching her and Sofia play in the garden.
This.
"Right here. This is all I want." Nina came around eventually. She still didn't love the situation, but she saw how happy Chantel was, how good Guido was to her, and she accepted it. "He treats you like a queen," Nina admitted. "And Sofia worships you. And he's actually getting out of the mob. So I guess I can't really complain." "Thank you," Chantel said, hugging her friend. "It means everything that you're trying." On a warm Saturday in June, Guido took Chantel and Sofia to the park. The same park where they'd been attacked 8 months earlier, now filled with flowers and sunshine and families. Sofia ran ahead to the playground, and Guido led Chantel to a bench under a tree. "Do you remember the first night we met?" he asked. "Of course," Chantel said. "You knocked on my door in a storm. You were terrified for Sofia. You tried to pay me with a fortune for helping her." "I fell in love with you that night," Guido said. "I did not know it yet, but I did. You opened your door to a stranger. You asked for nothing. You gave everything. And I thought, this woman, she is extraordinary." "Guido," Chantel said, her heart already racing. "I know I said I would make this perfect," Guido continued. "Flowers, music, some grand romantic gesture. But the truth is, every moment with you is already perfect. Every morning I wake up with you beside me. Every evening I watch you with Sofia. Every day I get to love you. That is the romance. That is the grand gesture." He slid off the bench and onto one knee, pulling a ring box from his pocket. Sofia came running back, clapping her hands. "Is Papa doing it now? Is he asking you?" "Sofia knew?" Chantel asked, laughing through tears. "Of course I knew. I helped pick the ring." Guido opened the box, revealing a simple, elegant ring that caught the sunlight. "Chantel Mark," he said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. "You saved my life the night you opened your door. You saved it again every day since by choosing to stay. Will you marry me? Will you be my wife, Sofia's mother, my partner in everything?" "Yes," Chantel said, not even hesitating. "Yes, absolutely yes." Guido slipped the ring on her finger and stood, pulling her into his arms and kissing her while Sofia cheered and random parkgoers applauded. "We're getting married," Sofia announced to everyone within earshot. "Chantel's going to be my mama officially." Chantel laughed and cried and held both of them close, this man and this little girl who'd become her entire world. They were married 3 months later in a small ceremony in the garden of the estate. Nina was Chantel's maid of honor. Tito was Guido's best man and cried through the entire ceremony, though he claimed it was allergies. Sofia was the flower girl and took her job extremely seriously, making sure every petal was perfectly placed. When Guido and Chantel exchanged vows, there wasn't a dry eye in the audience. "I promise to love you," Guido said, "in every way I know how. To be honest with you, even when the truth is difficult. To protect you and Sofia with everything I have. To be worthy of the gift you have given me by choosing this life." "I promise to love you," Chantel replied, "in all your complexity. To stand beside you as we build something good and true. To be Sofia's mother in every way that matters. To choose this, choose us, every single day." They kissed as husband and wife, and Sofia threw her bouquet in the air, scattering petals everywhere. The reception was small, just close friends and family, but it was perfect. Chantel danced with Guido under the stars, with Sofia between them, and felt like the luckiest woman in the world. "No regrets?" Guido asked quietly. "Not one," Chantel said. "You, only that I did not knock on your door sooner." That night, after Sofia was asleep and the guests had gone home, Chantel and Guido stood on the terrace where they'd shared so many conversations. "I never told you," Guido said, "what I thought when you opened your door that first night." "What did you think?" "I thought," This woman has the kindest eyes I have ever seen. And then I thought, I am going to ruin her life by bringing my darkness to her door. And then I thought, I do not care because I need her help and I am selfish enough to take it. And now, Chantel asked, now I think this woman saved my life in every way that matters. She took my darkness and filled it with light. She gave me a reason to be better. She loved me when I did not deserve it and stayed when anyone sensible would have run. And I will spend the rest of my life being grateful that she was kind enough to open her door to a stranger in a storm. Chantel kissed him, soft and sweet. I would open that door again, she whispered. Every single time. Because it brought me you. They stood there together, this former mobster and the nursing student who'd seen past his reputation to the man beneath and watched the stars come out over their home. 1 year later, Chantel held a baby girl in her arms while Guido and Sofia looked on with wonder. She's perfect, Sofia whispered, gently touching her new sister's tiny hand. What's her name? Hope, Chantel said, smiling at Guido. We're naming her Hope. Because that's what they'd found in each other, against all odds, against all logic. Hope for a better future. Hope that love could transform even the darkest past. Hope that kindness could change everything. Guido wrapped his arms around his family, all 3 of his girls, and sent a silent prayer of thanks to whatever force had sent him to Chantel's door that stormy night. He'd knocked looking for shelter for 1 night. He'd found a home for a lifetime. And Chantel, looking at her husband and daughters, thought about that eviction notice on her kitchen table, the $19.47, the choice to open her door to danger. Best decision she'd ever made. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible stories like this one. Drop a comment below telling us what you thought about Chantel and Guido's journey. We read every single one, and your engagement helps us bring you more amazing content. And don't forget to share this video with someone who believes in the power of kindness and second chances. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next.